Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Boon or Bust, and we're continuing our discussion about the challenges of cybersecurity. We're looking at the topic of the boardroom disconnect. How do we get people in the boardroom to position and view cybersecurity? I have, as always, the immense good fortune to be joined by my colleague, Mr. Matt Boon, who's going to share his erudite knowledge on this topic to us. Matt, what is the boardroom disconnect?
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, the boardroom disconnect really is getting that balance right between the need to deliver on business objectives, business priorities, but making sure we're also meeting our cyber and security commitments within the organisation more broadly. So when we talk about that disconnect, a lot of it comes back to there's a real disconnect between whether it's the security leader or the technology leader, their kind of vast technical understanding of some of these areas related to security, and the board having a fairly low level of digital literacy in general. Sure, not across all boards, but generally, what our viewers and listeners are challenged with, Peter, is how can they have the right conversation at the boardroom, at that board level, around some of the challenges associated with cyber, particularly when you consider this continued march towards cloud, the impact of AI on security, that sort of thing as well. How can we make the conversation relevant at that board level?
So what I'm hearing there, Matt, is it's not the issue of like delegating the responsibility to a specific individual, do it for me, so to speak. It's actually, how can I talk with my other board members about how we respond to these challenges? How can I have a conversation where I don't have to get into the weeds of the technology, but I have to got to understand who's accountable for? What are the metrics we use? How are we tracking cybersecurity? How can we have reassurance about cybersecurity? Because Matt, one of the reports I follow is what keeps CEOs awake at night. And in Australia, cybersecurity continues to be something that gives them insomnia. What's your thoughts about this?
I would say, Peter, more generally speaking, we need to consider not just how our leadership teams and boards are framing cyber, what that conversation looks like. I think there's probably three key areas, which generally when we talk to CEOs, when we, understanding board level conversations as well, and that's around whether cyber is aligned clearly with operational risk, with strategic enabler, i.e. being that enabler strategically, or ultimately a reputational threat. It could be all of those.
Well, I like that, Matt. Because what I'm hearing you say is you have to put cybersecurity into some context that those around you understand. Cybersecurity isn't something that you can fix and forget. This is an ongoing issue, and you've got to say, why should I be spending money on it? What am I defending against? What's important to my organization? It's that risk management discussion. What are the risks that it presents to you?
I think really when you look at that angle, Peter, as well, more broadly, I think the number one thing that's coming up is reputational threat.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing which is really resonating with the board, because at the end of the day, whatever you do, whatever efforts you make, once trust goes, your customers go with it.
Well, I mean, we're seeing right now in Australia the outages on 000 that are affecting Optus, and Optus looks like a deer in the headlights right now, responding to these issues. Rebuilding that trust is not a simple. That's going to take years of dedicated commitment from people to actually realize that sort of stuff. So you can sense. If you can walk in the shoes of the CEO of Optus right now and you think, I've got a mammoth task ahead of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. And I think that at the end of the day, that really is coming back to that reputational risk side of things as well, Peter. But when you think about rebuilding trust, it's not just with your customers. It's rebuilding trust with regulatory bodies, with the government as well, particularly in those highly regulated industries. We can call out Optus. I mean, Telstra has had these outages as well. It's not unique, and I think again, this is not a competitive differentiator.
No.
This is a collective challenge, whether you're in telco or finance or mining or energy. We need to work collectively to understand how we can make sure these sort of things don't happen.
Well, I'm always interested when I talk to cybersecurity executives how much they collaborate with one another. It's not that, a competitive advantage being good at cybersecurity. It's a recognition. What can we learn? What advice have you got? What tactics did you deploy? What was the results of that? They want to learn from others to make their organization stronger.
Yeah, I think they do. And I think that there's also almost an increased opportunity, need, if you like, for many of these organizations to also demonstrate to their customers what they're doing collectively. And let me give an example. So there's a great example where Telstra bought this company called Quantio, which is a data company, and essentially they're working hand in hand with CBA, right, on fraud detection, that sort of thing. And one of the things they've done, I think probably resonates with you based on what we were talking about earlier on as well, Peter, personally, is that essentially if you're on the phone, right, to a scammer, and they're trying to get money out of you, whether it's one of these, an older person or a young person, whatever, but they're trying to get money out of you on the phone. Essentially, this linkage between Telstra and CBA, and there's a lot of AI and tech involved in here as well. Ultimately, Telstra will then, through the technology, recognize that this person is on a telephone call to perhaps an unknown number or a known scam number, and they're accessing internet banking at the same time. And what happens at that point is CBA will put a hold on the transaction until they've contacted the customer to make sure why they're doing it and what it was. Now, you can use the term, it's a bit creepy when they start understanding, seeing all this stuff that you're doing. But ultimately, this is a great example where organizations are working together. And I know for a fact that Telstra wants to share this with other organisations, as does CBA, right? Because this is a real sort of game change. But my point, coming back to what I said at the beginning, is these sort of examples are what we need to be getting out to the general public, to the citizens, to let them know that there is this stuff going on in the background to sort of help them effectively as well.
Well, and I think that is the challenge for a lot of people, is the sense that they're on their own, that it's them against the world. No one's there to help them. I feel for people who have their superannuation accounts hacked. That's someone's life savings. It must be such a trauma to encounter that. And I'm really heartened to hear about that collaboration between Telstra and CBA, because I get back, somebody had to propose that idea. Somebody had to think about what that problem is. There had to be some mechanism that two businesses got together and they worked on ways to tackle it. And I think it's the realization in this digital world, yes, there's a competition between us, but we all need to make our environment more resilient, more helpful, because that's going to give the trust of the consumers to work in this place.
Yeah, and this is one great example where CBA really is not a bank anymore. Right? Yeah. It's a technology company. Yeah. And when you start thinking like a technology company and you work like a technology company collectively, you can really start to achieve, coming back to the points you made in our earlier conversation at the scene setting for cyber, Peter, is that while the thieves don't have masks, right? The shutters in the bank won't work anymore, right? To keep the thieves out. It's technology which will ultimately save the day.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think bringing it back to that sort of boardroom imperative as well, it's really important to shift the conversation from technical risk to business or customer impact.
Well, Matt, there's an issue here that I want to explore with you, and that's the issue of regulation, because I think the government also has a part to play in this, because I think actually regulation and compliance is a really important vehicle by which board members can see their obligations, can embrace their responsibilities, and they've got a feeling that they can invest and spend time on this and it's worthwhile. And I think that example coming from the government gives them the confidence governance to go with this?
It's a great point. I remember having a conversation with a group of leading sort of CISOs probably about 12 to 18 months ago, and I said, God, this governance, this compliance must be driving you mad. You must hate it. And pretty much collectively, they all said, no, we love it. Yes. And I said, you love it?
Yeah.
I said, why do you love it? They said, because all this focus on compliance and governance is resonating at the boardroom level.
Yeah.
So the board members recognise that if we don't meet these expectations or these capabilities, we could be personally liable. So they're saying, what do you need? How much money do you need to actually do this effectively? So.
Well, and it gives me heart also to realise that the government, the federal government in a country like Australia, recognise it has a part to play in creating that culture for a strong and resilient digital environment.
And I think that sort of leads us in very nicely to the next session that we're going to have a bit of a conversation around, Peter, as well, which I'm sure will be near and dear to everybody, and that's the talent crunch next time on Boon or Bust Goes Cyber.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Matt.